Hi there, you're welcome to Johnson Praise TV. I'm highly elated to walk you through Psych 101 Pasco review, that is element of psychology, and this is my first video on psychology, that is Psych 101 Pasco review. Okay, so I'm sure he will enjoy it. The focus is to guide you or probably prepare you for the exam. So at the end of the video, you should be able to know how psychology questions are being answered and how you can answer certain questions. Okay, the questions are somehow tricky, but when they give to you, you should be able to answer them well, right? So that is my aim, and to also help you know the intricate nature of psychology, how psychology is. Okay, so we'll delve more into the past questions, analyze them, solve them together. So if you have not even gotten time to even attend lectures, I'll be explaining the concept for you one after the other. So by so doing, I'll be walking you through all the sessions. Don't skip this video, watch it to an end, and it will be beneficial to you. Let's get started. Okay, so the question encompasses of three sessions. We have session A, session B, and then session C. So session A is feeling. That is where they give you the questions and then they ask you to provide the answer. And here you are obliged to provide the correct answer. Okay, you don't go and write something that that's not what they something that is not there, right? So you write whatever the correct answer. If the definition is now, you provide now. If it is eclectic school of thought, you provide it there. If it is functionalism, you provide it there. And session B is also about, that is also going to be about multiple choice questions. So they give you, like the way you normally do your IES, how they give the questions to you, so you answer them. And then the third one is also going to be some concept that they'll be asking you. So that one is going to be just like they ask you like a theory, but they expect short answers from you. But the session B, as I told you, it's more multiple choice, either true or false, or probably they give you options, but I'm sure it's going to be true or false. What you'll be doing is true or false questions. So now let's get started. Okay, so I'll give you the questions. I read the question and then give you the explanations. Drawing on the ideas from all the schools of psychology will help you obtain a better understanding of behavior. This is an argument put forward by the Dash school of thought. This is something simple, and I'm sure you've been coming across things like this. So the answer is what? Eclectic school of thought. Eclectic school of thought. So what does it mean? Okay, for them, they believe that drawing conclusion from multiple school of thought help you to understand the concept better. So they take inspiration from functionalism, they take inspiration from structuralism, they take inspiration from psychodynamic or psychoanalysis, and then they add other concept to it, and then they draw a conclusion. They believe that when you do it this way, that's how you become a better psychologist, right? Like some people when they go to parties, they provide a lot of food there. For them, they believe that they have to eat jollof, they have to eat wachi, they have to eat ampesi, everything that they give to them, they have to eat some there. And that's how they can regard themselves as what? As participative, because they attended. So as they are there, they have to enjoy everything. Do you get it? So that is how the eclectic school of thought is. So let me read. I gave you some explanation. The eclectic approach in psychology means combining ideas from different ways of thinking about behavior. It's like making a soup with a lot of ingredients to make it tasty. For example, imagine you are trying to understand why someone is afraid of spiders. Instead of just looking at one idea, thinking is because of childhood experiences, which is what psychodynamic, you might also consider you might also what, consider if they learn to be scared. Okay, if they learn to be scared, which is what, behaviorism, or if they what, they have negative thought about spiders, which is what, cognitive psychology. Missing this experiences what, or missing these ideas helps us to understand behavior better, like I told you already. So if you want to know, if you want to look at why a child, for example, if you want to look at why someone is afraid of a spider, it could be that the child was born with that kind of the child was trained to fear spiders, or the child learned to fear spider, or it could be what, a perception that the child also has about it. Do you get it? So for the eclectic school of thought, this is how they do it, and I'm sure after this explanation, if you don't understand eclectic and you come across things like this, you'll be able to do. Let's move on to number 2. Kojo wants to conduct some psychological research using the scientific method. He has observed a behavior, written down some questions about the behavior, and done some information research and background reading. He has formulated his hypothesis, but does not know what the next step in his research process should be. With your knowledge, of the scientific method, what would you suggest should be the next step? So he has what, done all the things, right? He has what, observed the behavior, written down the questions. He has also done the background readings, and he has what, formulated his hypothesis. So what is next? Okay, so the next thing that he should do after this stage is to what, design and conduct an experiment or observational study to test those hypotheses. That is the next step. So after doing all these things, the next step is what, to design and conduct an experiment or observational study to test those hypotheses, right? So the next step in the scientific method after formulating hypothesis is to design and conduct an experiment or observational studies to test those hypotheses. Kojo should plan how he will gather data to either support or refute these hypotheses in a controlled and systematic way, right? Let's move on to number 3. A researcher in Ghana is interested in finding out whether women's skin color have anything to do with what? With getting a lift from male drivers. He selected 5 ladies who are fair in complexion and 5 ladies who are dark in complexion. Okay, he began by letting one fair lady stand by the roadside and recorded how many male drivers stopped and offered lifts. Then he would replace the fair lady with what? With a dark lady, and record how many drivers stopped to offer lift. Over time, he realized that the dark lady tend to get lift more than the fair ladies, and concluded that Ghanaian males are more attracted to what? To women who are dark in what? In complexion. So this is experiment he conducted. He wanted to know whether the males whether the how do you call it, the dark ladies or the fair ladies. He wanted to know those who get more lift when they are on the roadside. And per the experiment he carried, he was able to pinpoint or come up with an observation that the dark ladies normally get lift than the fair ladies. So this is it. So now the question is saying that what was the independent variable in this research? What was the independent variable in this research? And B, what was the independent variable in this research? B, what was the independent? Okay, I think the questions are okay, so let's move on. Let's check question 1. It says that the first the independent, what was the independent variable in this research? So is the independent variable in this research is the skin complexion of the women, which is what? Fair versus dark. The skin complexion. Okay, the experiment was based on their color. Okay, so the skin complexion of the women, which is what fair versus what dark. So the independent variable in this research is the skin complexion of the women, which is fair versus dark. The independent variable is the one that the researcher deliberately manipulate or change in an experiment. In this case, the researcher is deliberately selecting women with different skin complexion, that is fair versus dark, to see if it affects the outcome, which is the number of male drivers offering lifts. So that is the answer. Now let's look at question B. The B says that the question B says that what was the dependent. Okay, so right, I get the difference between. So B says that what was the dependent variable in this research. So the first one is independent variable, and then the second one is dependent, right? So now let's look at the dependent variable. So the number of male drivers who stopped and offer lift to the women, that is the answer. So the dependent variable is is the number of male drivers who stop and offer lift to the women. So the dependent variable in this research is the number of male drivers who stop to offer lift to the women. The dependent variable is the outcome or response that is measured in an experiment, right? So the difference between the independent and then the dependent is that for the dependent variable, it is the number of researcher, or the the one that the researcher deliberately manipulates or changes in an experiment. Okay, the one that the researcher deliberately manipulates or changes in an experiment. But the dependent variable is is the outcome or response that is measured in an experiment. Do you get the difference now? So let me continue. So it depends on the number of dependent variables. So it depends on the number of dependent variable. In this case, the number of male drivers offering lift in the research, in what the researcher is observing and measuring. Okay, so it is expected to vary depending on whether the women are fair or dark in complexion, which is why it is the dependent variable, right? Let's move on to number 4. Psychologists believe that how many people think. Okay, so a psychologist believes that how many people think and how they process information around them, including their perceptions of the world, is the main factor that influences the behavior and responses to stimuli. The belief is similar to the ideas of the Dutch school of thought in psychology. So which school of thought are we talking about? People who, or psychologists who think or who believes that how people would think and how they process information around them, including their perception of the world, is the main factor that influences their behavior and responses to stimuli. So which of them are we talking about? It is cognitive school of thought. It is cognitive school of thought. When you say cognitive school of thought in psychology, it focuses on how people think and understand the world, right? So it deals with your mental processes. Okay, when you say your mental processes, before you process information, it passes through certain channel. As you are there, and unexpectedly someone touches you, okay, your body will receive it, pass it to the brain. Okay, the brain will now quickly digest it. Who touched me? Now you begin to use your eye, look at the person. Now you realize if the person is your boyfriend or your husband, the mind will calm down, okay, because you know that the person is somebody that you know. But if the person is someone that you don't know, now it will begin to now it will pass it through the heart. Now the heart will now begin to it will get angry that why do you even have to touch me? Okay, and you begin to react on that. So the mental processes, this is what the cognitive psychologists are interested in it. So we say that for the cognitive psychology, their school of thought, they focus on what, how people think and understand the world, right? It's like studying how our brain works when we learn new things or solve problems. For example, if someone believes that thinking and understanding influence how we behave, they are thinking like a cognitive psychologist. So if someone is thinking of someone is trying to what, or someone is trying to believe that thinking and understanding influence how we behave, then the person is what, a cognitive psychologist. Like I tell you, as that thing happened, the person touched you. Now you are going to behave based on what, the touch. Okay, so your response to stimuli here makes it what, like actually what, make you react based on what, your mental process, your thinking, how you think, right? So let's move forward. Number 5, if someone is experienced, then it must exist, and therefore the experience must be what, be valid and true. The statement reflects a method of knowing, of knowing of knowing known as what. So we are looking at the method of knowing, and this method of knowing is saying that if someone is experienced, then it must exist, and therefore the experience must be what, valid and true. Which what, which method of knowing are we talking about? This is what, personal experience. Some people also say that this is what, empiricism, right? Empiricism. But I'm sticking to personal experience at your level, right? I'm sticking to this at your level. So when you talk of personal experience is a method of what, knowing, means we understand things based on what we have what, directly lived through, right? It's a method of knowing, means we have understand, okay? We have understand things based on what, based on what we have lived through. For instance, if you have ever tested ice cream, you know what it's like without needing someone else to confirm it. If you have tested ice cream already, you have experienced it, so you don't need someone to tell you that ice cream is sweet or bitter, right? You have experienced it. If you have what, experienced what, how do you call it, cut before, you know how it is. If knife cuts you, you know how it is, how it feels. So this is what we call what, personal experience. Okay, so it is what, one of the method of what, one of the method of knowing. Okay, it is what, personal experience. Now let's move on to number 6. According to Sigmund Freud, the greater percentage of the forces that affect our behavior dwell in the dash. This is simple. I'm expecting you to even answer this without me coming in. Okay. According to what, Sigmund, he is saying that the greater percentage of the forces that affect our behavior dwell in the answer is what, unconscious mind. When you talk of the conscious mind, he believed that the conscious mind is too what, small, okay, or it's not really broader, but the unconscious mind, okay, the greater percentage of the forces that affect our behavior comes from the unconscious mind. What is the unconscious mind? It is your fears. Okay, right now it could be that you are very intelligent and they have asked you to go for let's say like you are, they have asked you to go for quiz in a place in a place like Novoko, right? Which you know that definitely that place somebody may do you juju, or probably that's not a bad city, but you know there's a perception about that town. That's why I'm using it. I'm not saying people from that area are bad though. They are good people there, but because of this perception, that's why I'm using that city as a case study, right? So because of that, despite the fact that you are intelligent, there could be some fear, and that fear will prevent you from what, giving out your best or thinking right, because you know that somebody can do you something wrong, and because of that it will affect your performance. So he believed that it's not always about our mental processes and then the mental structure. It's not about how we think and other stuff, but the things that are what, external, that are the unconscious mind, they have greater they have greater impact. Okay, those forces affect our behavior. Why is it that somebody will get rich and refuse to go to his hometown? What can't the person can go with what? With flight. The person can buy car, send it to his hometown. Why is it that the person is only doing his burger in Accra and can't go to his hometown? It is because of what? The unconscious things that are what? External, that has what? Greater impact on our behavior. I don't want to go to this place. I don't eat this food. You believe that if I eat this food, which is what? Will bewitch me, so I won't do this, I won't do that. So these things are, you could see somebody being intelligent and the person perform poor in a competition. You ask yourself why. You are not smarter as a person, but you can overcome the person because of what? The mental, the state of mind. The person is what? Is really having the external factors are what? Bewitching the person, or it is really causing him to behave some way strangely. Sometimes you see a university student or an elite, okay, or educated person behaving strangely, and it'll be like people we work in school. It is the external. So if it is about thinking, yes, pen and paper should write, do things that the person can beat you hands down, but the unconscious could be the person is even what? Going through certain things, and that is the reason why he's behaving. So he believes that what? The greater percentage of the forces that affect our behavior dwell in the unconscious mind. Do you get it? Right. So let's move on to, so let me see. So Sigmund Freud believed that a lot of what drives our actions come from what? The unconscious mind. It's like having a hidden part of what? It's like having a hidden part of our brain that influences us without us having realizing it, okay, without us even realizing it. For example, when you have a sudden fear or desire that seems to come out of nowhere, Freud would say that it's because of these hidden forces in our unconscious mind. So fear can make you do things that you don't even think about it before doing it. It can influence you. Do you get the point? Number 7, scientific psychology cannot focus on studying the mind because the mind is invisible, and the scientific method is only used to study things that are visible and variable. This argument was the basis of each school of thought. This one, if you know it, please drop it under the comment section. Number 7, if you know, drop it under the comment section. Okay, so this is what? Behaviorism. So the behaviorist or the behaviorist, they says that, or the contended that that would only study things we should see and measure. Okay, so we should study things we can see and measure, right? It's like behaviors, because the mind is invisible and have to study scientifically. For example, instead of trying to understand why someone feels anxious, behaviorists would focus on what action they take when they feel anxious, like fidgeting or avoiding certain places, right? So they believe that we should rather we should only study things we can see and measure, right? So that is what they believe in. So for them, instead of trying to understand why someone feels anxious, because they believe that one you can't study it, but their focus lies here. It's not like, but their focus is on what the action that the person will take when the person is anxious. For the anxiousness, they believe they can't study it, but what action do the person take, or what action would they take whenever they are anxious? Okay, when someone is angry, what action do they take? Okay, with that one you can study it. It is the physical aspect. Okay, you can study that one to know what is wrong with the person. Do you get it? But this in the mind, they believe you can't study it that way. Number 8, no two human beings are the same in that. No two human beings are the same in that. Humans are born with different genetic makeups, brain development, and normal and and normal patterns also differ slightly from person to person. This argument reflects a Dutch theoretical perspective in psychology. So which one are we talking about? This is what biological perspective in psychology. So the biological perspective in psychology focuses on how our biology, like our genes, brain development, and hormones affect our behavior and mental processes. Okay, so when we talk of what the biological theoretical perspective in psychology, it is what it focuses on how our biology, like what our genes, our brain development, our hormones affect our behavior and mental processes. Let me give you an example. Example is what, for example, why some people might be more prone to anxiety due to what differences in their brain chemistry or genetic what predisposition. So that is all about the biological theoretical perspective. So pay attention. So in the exam, when they ask you, you don't need to go and explain anything. No, you just have to give the full, just write the points. But it's good to understand it. Okay, as I'm explaining it, but they can also ask you, maybe they may not give it to you like this, so they'll ask you to define biological theoretical perspective, and you should be able to do so. Everything we do here, I could have write only the answers and sent to you, but I want you to, in case whether they twist questions or whatever they do, you should be able to do something. Let's move on to number 9. If somebody wanted to understand why people behave in certain ways in social situation, or how social environments of people can influence their behavior, you would probably advise the person to study what? So assuming right now, as you are here, you want to what? You want to understand why people behave in certain way, okay? Or someone wants to understand how people behave in certain way, okay? So and how our social environment can influence what people behavior, okay? So which school of thought or which study are you going to recommend to the person? This is what social psychology. So the social psychology is what, if someone wants to understand why people behave in certain ways in our social situation or our social environment, or the social environment of people, or how the social environment of people can influence their behavior, then we say that I recommend that the person should study social psychology. So if someone wants to understand why people act in certain way in social situation and how environment affect behavior, they should study social psychology. It's like figuring out why people laugh more in group than they are alone, or why people might conform to a group's opinion even if they disagree. So social psychology helps us to understand how people interact and behave in social settings, right? So it will help you to understand all these things, right? Let's move on to number 10. Nursing comes from work and finds out in his dining table. Okay, sorry. Nursing comes from what? Nursing comes back from work and finds a note on his dining table. It was a note from his girlfriend saying she was quitting the relationship because she felt Nelson didn't love her enough. Nelson picked a glass from the dining table and smashed it on the floor in anger and began crying. Nelson's behavior reflects which defense mechanism? Please, before I explain this, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Okay, I'm begging you, subscribe to my channel and like and share for me. Okay, try and share it. We do this, you are motivating us, because it's not easy, but we'll continue to always do our best for you. So please do this to support us, right? I don't expect much from you, but do only this to support me. Thank you. Now, so with this one, upon Nelson came out from work, he realized his girlfriend has written some note, left it on the table, and when he opened the paper, it was about it was what, a letter from his girlfriend saying that Nelson doesn't love her anymore. Okay, so she feels like Nelson doesn't love her, so she's leaving the relationship. And now that is not where the emphasis or that's not where the focus lies. So, but Nelson's behavior, the kind of action that Nelson took there, that is what we are coming to look at. So when Nelson heard that thing, quickly he picked a glass and smashed it. That is one thing. Okay, so after smashing the glass, okay, so he also what, on the floor, and also in anger, and also began crying. So after doing that, he also what, he started crying. So which behavior reflects which behavior reflects which defense mechanism? So we are coming to look at the defense. We have so many defense mechanisms, but which defense mechanism are we talking about? This is displacement. So with displacement is when someone directs their strong emotions. Okay, it's when someone direct their strong emotion, like anger or frustration, onto something or someone else. That's what less threatening. Okay, so this is what about displacement, when you direct your strong emotions and or anger or frustration onto something or someone else that is less frustrating. So for example, instead of confronting his girlfriend, he smashed a glass in anger, because he feels hurt and upset by her note. So when you are trying to direct a behavior, or you are trying to direct your frustration towards something or someone else, it becomes displacement. He could have approached the girl and talked to the girl. The girl might come back, but he was a bit he got angry and took a decision based on that, right? So psychology is a good course, right? Now number 11, Nina and her once best friend Rosemary are no longer on talking terms, because Nina once accused Rosemary of betraying her by revealing her secret to someone else and swore never to talk to Nina again. Derek, who is a friend to both girls, meet Nina one day at lectures and asks her why she and Rosemary are no longer talking together. Nina says she is not talking to me because she is angry with me. She is not talking to me because. So all the background that we give doesn't matter. The most important thing here is to focus on the exact in academic writing we call it the controlling idea. Okay, so the controlling idea becomes she is not talking to me because she is angry with me. So this is what will help you to identify the exact defense mechanism. So which one are we talking about? This is called projection. So when you talk of projection as a defense mechanism, it means that it's when someone attributes their own thought, feelings, or motives to someone else. Okay, when she's not talking to me, okay, the person said that she is not talking to me because she's angry with me. So the person is rather attributing or the person was directing their own thought, feelings, and motives to someone else. For example, Nina accuses Rosemary of not talking to her because Rosemary is angry. So when in reality it's Nina who is angry and not talking to Rosemary. Do you get the point? So this is a logical situation here. You are angry and you are not talking to me. Someone has come to ask you, why are you not talking to me? Someone has come to ask you that, why are you not talking to your friend? Say that your friend is rather angry with you. Do you get the point? So it is projection. So you get it. So we are learning a lot here. A researcher goes to a farm to observe and document the natural behavior and attitudes of the farm workers when their boss is not around. To give himself a better chance of seeing the farmer's actual natural behaviors, he decided to hide somewhere near the farm to observe the farmers from a distance, using a camera so that they do not notice his presence. What kind of naturalistic observation is a farmer using in this case? A researcher, okay, so this one, which kind of naturalistic observation is a farmer using here? This is called what? Covert naturalistic observation. Is called covert naturalistic observation. So with a covert naturalistic observation, it means that observing people's behavior without them knowing that they are being watched. A lot of people do that. When you see guys on the street, okay, they mostly they are there. Their eyes are just all around. They know all the new girls in the town. They know if you're a new girl in the town. They know if you're old girl too. They know you. If you have a boyfriend, they know. If you don't have to, they know. They monitor you. They know unless they don't. You are not a girl, okay. The moment you are a girl, they know everything. And sometimes the girls too do that. Girls, they know every new guy in the community. Unless you don't go there, you see them, they will be discussing. Hey, this is a new guy. Hey, this guy too is nice. Oh, you get that. Girls, they talk a lot, but guys, they use their own. Their problem is their eye. Ladies, their problem is what? Their ear and their mouth. But guys, their eye. And unless they don't see, they will be talk. They will watch. They will be monitoring. So when you are observing someone closely without the person knowing, we call it what? We call this one what? Please drop it under the comment section. I won't mention it again. Drop it under the comment section. What is it? Okay, let me move forward. Number 13. In correlation research, if there is a negative relationship between two variables, it means that what? So in correlation research, if there is what? A negative relationship between two variables, it is called what? So the answer here is what? It means that it is what? It means that one variable increases and the other variable decreases. So when they ask you, this is the answer you should provide. Don't go ahead and be explaining like the way I'm doing, okay? So, but I want you to understand the question very well. So they ask you, you should be able to understand it, should be able to explain it. So in correlation research, a negative variable between two variables means that, okay, please forgive me, my truth. So let's continue. It says that in correlation research, a negative relationship between two variables means that when one thing goes up, the other thing goes down. For example, if there is what? A negative correlation between study time and TV watching, it means that the study time increases and TV watching decreases, and vice versa. So when you are looking at the negative relationship, okay, so if you are to look at the negative relationship, the more you watch TV, the more your time for studying decreases, and the more you study too, the more your time for watching television decreases. That is how. The more you YouTube, the more you TikTok, the more your time for studying decreases. So that is it. So one will affect other. So we call it what? Correlation research. Okay, so let's continue. Number 14. If someone was interested in studying the relationship between religiosity and polygamy, what specific research method or design will you recommend for them? So if someone is interested in studying religiosity and polygamy, I'll recommend correlational research method. So in correlational research method, the research would measure how religious people and how religious people are and how accepting they are of what polygamy. So when you are studying this one, in you pick religious people, you know their view on what on polygamy, whether they are imbibing the concept or they are what they are against it. If they are embracing it, you know. If they are also against it, you will know, right? So without changing anything, okay, so I'll say that our what religion so let me give you an example. For example, he might give people surveys asking about their religious beliefs and attitudes towards what polygamy. Then if there is what relationship between the two, so the person will now be giving what the person will now be giving how do you call it, the people's survey, and be asking them about what whether what about their religious belief and attitude towards what polygamy. Okay, so that is it. Let's look at the last question under session A. It says that some individuals claim that they have the ability to move objects simply because what simply by staring at what those objects without making any physical contact with the object. In psychology, this reflects a phenomenon called what they call it what psychokinesis. Okay, so psychokinesis is when someone claims to move objects using their what their mind without touching them. It's what it's like saying you can make a pencil roll you across a table just by looking at it. So that's what psychokinesis. Please, I hope you get it. Now let's move to session B. With the session B, as we move towards session B, all I need to let you know is that you make sure you understand the concept. Watch everything to an end. And as I've been saying, I'm into what travel and talk. I'm into what travel. Okay. I'm a travel agent. Okay. So if you want to travel to any of the countries, you have brothers, sisters, recommend them to me. I have special packages. I'll mention the packages, but I have them across Canada, USA, and other countries. So you can contact me on 0545 412017. Let's move on. Session B. So session B2 with the session A, let's look at the mark here. So if you answer all these questions, you are going to what? You are going to get 30 marks, right? Your I was 30 marks. So when you add up to it, already you're having what? You're having 60 marks. Let's move on to the session B. Let me show you something. Session B is 10 mark, and they are going to give you 10 questions for 10 mark. So you do look at the mark and you know the time you spend there. So you don't spend all your time here doing this. Last semester I saw one of your seniors score. It was over 70, and a person had 20 over 70. So psychology, take it serious. Okay, take it serious. With feelings, one thing about feeling is that if you don't know, you don't know. If it is theory, that one you can write things and put things inside. If you know one concept, you can explain and maybe add some things inside it without and still get some mark out of it. But with this one, if you don't know psychokinesis, if you go and write psychology or you go and write pseudo psychology, you've gotten it wrong. It's psychokinesis. So make sure you read well, and whatever I'm teaching you, to pay attention to them. After watching the video, the question I'm asking, you can also ask yourself same questions and see if you can answer them like the way I did, right? Try and test yourself before you go to the examination. Let's move on. Okay, so this one is what true or false question. So it's true or false. So we are coming to basic psychologists engage more basic psychologists engage more in practice than research. So basic psychology basic psychology engage more in practice than research. True or false? The answer is false. So basic psychologists primarily focus on research than practice. So they conduct what experiment and studies to expand knowledge in psychology, while applied psychologists would use the research to address real world problems in various settings. So this answer is what? False. Let's look at number 2. Okay, theories can be tested through practice. True or false? The answer is what? False. Theories are what? Cannot be directly tested through practice alone. In scientific research, theories are what? Tested through empirical method such as experiment, observations, or surveys. These methods involve systematic gathering of what? Data to evaluate the validity and accuracy of a theory's predictions and experiment, right? So let's move on to the next question. Okay, number 3. So forget about the 2 there. It is number 3. Structuralist theory and functionalist theory basically say the same things. It is false. Structuralists they believe in what? So let me give you the explanation. So structuralists and functionalists are two different theoretical perspectives in psychology. Structuralists focus on analyzing the basic elements of consciousness, while functionalists focus on understanding the purpose and function of mental processes and behavior. They have a distinct approach and goals, although they have both contributed to the development of psychology as a field, but they are not the same. Do you get it? So functionalists are interested in what? Knowing how the brain functions, okay? But the structuralists are interested in knowing what? The mental structure, okay, and how it works. So if structurally, example, if you're having a TV and the TV spoils right now, the structuralist approach will be what? Will be to look at the various parts of the TV. Now they will look at maybe the switch and see if there's problem with the switch. If there's no problem with the switch, they will go and look at what? The other aspect, which is maybe the screen. And if there's no problem, so that's their approach to issues. They look at what? The structure, the parts. But the functionalists, they look at how the mind would function as a whole. Do you get it? So let's move to number 4. The main argument of cognitive theory of psychology and behavioral theory of psychology are almost the same. The answer is what? False. Cognitive and behavioral are not the same. Okay, so the statement of cognitive theory and behavioral theory are what? They differ. Okay, so let's look at the cognitive theory. Cognitive theory focuses on how people think, perceive, and understand the world around them, emphasizing mental processes such as memory, problem solving, and decision making. But with behavioral theory, on the other hand, behavioral theory, on the other hand, focuses on what? On observable behavior and how they are learned through interactions with the environment, often emphasizing the role of what? Of reinforcement and conditioning in shaping behavior. So they are not the same. Number 5. While structuralists believe in studying the mind, functionalists rather believe in what? Studying observable behavior. This is also what? False. So you must understand the various school of thought. So please make sure you understand all these things. If not, you get these questions wrong. They are true or false, but you get all of them wrong. So it is not true. Okay. So while functionalists did emphasize studying observable behavior, they are also interested in what? In the function or purpose of mental processes, right? They believe that behavior and mental processes serve adaptive function that help individuals survive and thrive in their environment. So therefore, functionalists do not exclusively focus on studying observable behavior. They also examine mental processes such as what? Perception, memory, and consciousness. Number 6. Wilhelm Wundt opened his psychology lab in Leipzig. J.B. Watson. Okay, so when Wilhelm Wundt opened his psychology lab in Leipzig, J.B. Watson also developed his behavioral theory in psychology. This is what? False. Right? So J.B. Watson had already developed his behavioral theory of psychology. It's not true, okay? This was open. William Wundt opened the psychology before. So let's move on. So let me see. Read it for you. So William Wundt opened his first psychology lab in Leipzig in 1879, making the beginning of experimental psychology as a formal discipline. J.B. Watson, on the other hand, developed his behavioral theory of psychology known as Behaviorism, later in the early 20th century, around the 1910, okay, or 1910. So therefore, William Wundt's lab was established before Watson development of behaviorism. So Wundt established his lab before Watson. So number 7, a person controlled by his superego is like a person controlled by his superego likely has high moral values. True or false? This is true. The superego, right? Let me give you the clarification. We have ID, we have ego and superego. So the ID is is something that you believe that, oh, this one there, I must get it. Okay, this girl there, no matter what, I need to get this girl. This boy there, no matter what, I need to marry him. That is your ID. And your super ID, your how do you call it? Your super, you have ego. The ego is now knowing, like, after thinking that, oh, this girl there was a girl with there, no matter what, I have to get this girl. You realize the girl has a boyfriend. Okay, so instead of actually pursuing the girl, then why don't you, instead of saying, oh, and then you're magic guy and every, like, I need to capture the girl, why don't you, like, make some consideration and also study the girl before making a move? So here, there's the ego, there's a consideration there. Even though you still go for it, but there's consideration. You have to make a compromise here. But the super ego, that one is is the opposite of the ID. Okay, the super ego is where you think that, oh no, humanizing is no good. It's not good for men. So you stop based on that. You stop crying because you realize that, oh, the lady isn't even having a boyfriend, so it's not good for me to pursue her. Or the guy even has a wife, so it's not good for me to pursue him. So this becomes the super ego. So someone who is having a super ego, he makes consideration, he make amendment, right? So with people like that, they have high moral standard. Okay, they have high moral value. So the super ego is the component of Freud's psychoanalytic theory that presents an internalized moral standard and values. Therefore, a person who is highly controlled by their superego is likely to have strong moral values and adhere to ethical principles, right? So you see girls taking your fellow ladies taking money from married men and women and scamming them, but you have been trained where you are from a home. You've been trained from home that this is no good. So the moment you realize that, no, even though you need money, but it is not good to snatch someone's husband or date someone's husband, now you stop at all. You stop. So someone who has super ego will not go, but someone who has ego will probably consider, instead of probably snatching the person from the wife totally, she will not do that. Or be a side chick. Okay, that is the that is the ego. So the ego will be side chick here. Somebody who has ego will be a side chick. But someone who has ID, the person will snatch you totally from the man. Only morals. So you see people like this in our society. Or no, just one case or penkwan they are found by force. These people, most of them don't have values. They don't have moral values. Even if the person is to steal to get, kill to get, they will get it. If the person is to even rape you before having way to your life, or be rape you, you get it. But somebody who has ego, the person is has high values in life. So I've given you tit for tat. This one, if you go and meet it in exams and they ask you to explain it, you don't expect your lecturer to come explain this. I've taught you these things, right? So you came to watch past questions, and I've also taught you these things. So let's move on to number 8. Number 8, if Nanama believes that people's behavior are largely controlled by their outer environment, that that the way to understand their mental functioning is what is by observing their overt behavior, then Nanama probably agrees with cognitive school of thought. Is it true or false? This is what false. Let me read the question again. Nanama believes that what people's behavior are largely what controlled by their outer environment. That is the way to understand their mental functioning is by what observing their overt behavior. So Nanama probably agrees with the cognitive school of thought. This is what false. I've already told you that. Go and learn all the school of thought, know their argument. It will help you, right? So this is incorrect, right? If Nanama believes in people's behavior are largely controlled by their outer environment, and that behavior and that's what observing overt behavior is the way to understand mental functioning, then Nanama probably agrees with what the behaviorist school of thought. This is what behaviorist school of thought, and not what the cognitive. So you will get the difference. So the behaviorist what focuses on observable behavior and how they influence by the environment, while cognitive school of thought emphasize the role of what internal mental processes such as thinking, memory, and what perception. Let's look at number 10. So number 10 says that if a person's ID tells him that he should grab some food from a store and eat right away, his super ego will probably tell him the opposite. True or false? It is true. If you are there, you've gone to some place, and then your mind tells you that, oh, this one, grab the food, and your super ego, which is what say what the super ego will say the opposite. Don't do it. Oh, approach this girl. Super ego will say, oh, don't approach this girl. Go and steal this money. Super ego will tell you, oh, don't escape. So the super ego is always opposite of what the ID, but the how do you call it, the ego is in between the two of them on a compromise. Okay, instead of snatch food, and instead of it to snatch the food from the person and eat it, it will not snatch the food, but rather compromise, rather tell the person, oh, give me the food, I won't like to eat your food, or probably I would like this thing, and the person will rather give it to him, even though he has gotten it, but the person made a compromise with that without snatching it. Okay, so the super ego acts as the moral conscience. Okay, so the super ego acts as the moral conscience and may inhabit or oppose the impulsive desires of the ID. Therefore, the ID urges a person to satisfy its desires immediately, but the super ego is likely to impose what moral standard and discourage such impulse actions. So now we are done with the session B. Let's move on to session C. So session C, you have to answer some few questions here. This is also 10 questions, right? So you have 30, 10, 10, okay? But in your exams, because the IA was only 30 mark, I don't know if they give you any assignment aside this. So already this one is 10, this is also 10. So already 50. So I'm sure maybe that one will be based on assignment you are given. The remaining, which is 50, okay? The remaining 20 mark may be dependent on the lecturer probably, or you can decide to ask some questions to this one. Okay, so let's look at this. Answer all questions. So you have to what? Answer all questions. Now, explain what parapsychological phenomenon called precognition. So you have to explain what precognition. So precognition is the claim ability to perceive or predict future events before they happen without using the usual 5 senses or logical inference. Okay, it suggests that knowing about an event before it occurs through what? Extrasensory perception, that is ESP. For example, someone might have a dream about a specific plane crash, and then later discover that the crash happened exactly as they dreamed, even though they had no prior knowledge of it. So when you talk of what the precognition is, something that you perceive before it even happen. It could be in a form of dream or something. It is what called precognition. That's number two. Explain what? Explain explain or how do you call it? Explain republication. Republication as what? As a characteristic of science. So replication. Replication. It says explain what replication as what? As characteristics of science. So replication in science is what? Is refers to what? The process of repeating or reproducing studies finding. So let me take it again. Replication in science refers to the process of repeating or reproducing studies findings or results to determine if the same results can be obtained under similar conditions. It's like what? It's like double checking to make sure that the initial findings weren't just a fluke or coincidence. Republication helps to verify the reliability and what? Validity of scientific findings and ensure that conclusions are based on what? Robust evidence rather than what? Chance, right? So that is what republication. Forgive me because I'm tired. So if maybe I'm making some small mistakes, I'm tired. Number three, differentiate between phrenology and astrology. So we are coming to look at the difference between phrenology and astrology. So phrenology is what? Is the idea that the personality traits and ability can be determined by what? Feelings, by feeling the bumps and shapes of person's skull. For example, someone might believe that if a person has what? Has a bump in certain area of their skull, they are what? They are likely to be of what? Of good. They are likely to be what? A good at math. They are likely to be what? To be good at what? Math. So for phrenology, it is a study, okay? That's what they use what? Your school. They based on that what? To study your characteristics and what you do. So when the person touches your head, he knows that, oh, this person will be good in math. The way the person shape, this is what we call what? Phrenology. And we have what? Astrology. Astrology is the belief that positions of the stars and planets can influence what? Behavior of events. For example, if someone might think that that because they were born when the moon was in a certain sign, they are more likely to be emotional and creative. So this is where they look at it. If you are born night, a person can say, oh, this person will be what? Will be will be rich or probably will be poor. They look at that. This is what? Astrology. Number 4, explain the goal of what? Prediction in psychology. So the goal of prediction. So we have what? 4 goals of what? 4 goals in psychology. Okay, we have understanding what? Behavior, predicting behavior. We also have what? They are 4. So I've forgotten the other ones. Okay, I don't want to be stressing myself too much. You can, if you know, you can drop the remaining two goals of psychology. Okay, I've mentioned 2. That's prediction and what? We have also what? Understanding. Okay, so the remaining 2, drop them under the comment section. Let me see if you know them. They can ask you this in your exams. So it says that so we are coming to explain. So the goal of prediction in psychology is to forecast or anticipate future behavior, right, or thought or outcomes based on what? Current understanding and evidence. So by identifying patterns and relationships between variables, psychologists aim to make accurate predictions about what? About how individual or groups would will behave or respond in specific situation. Prediction helps psychologists to anticipate potential outcomes and plan interventions or strategy to address and prevent certain behavior or issue. So that is it. Let's look at number 5. So explain the term debriefing in psychological research. So debriefing in psychological research refers to the process of providing participants with information about the study they have just taken part in. So typically after their involvement has ended, it involves explaining the true purpose of the study, any deception that may have been used, and addressing questions and or concerns the participant may have. The briefing ensures that participants fully understand the research and its implication. So that is it. Let me take the debriefing again, and you see, debriefing in psychological research refers to the process of providing participants with information about the study they have just taken part in, typically after their involvement has ended. That is all about debriefing. Please make sure you share it on your platforms for me. Share it on your platform. I'm talking to you, Akosia, Ya, Esi, Ama. You are the one I'm talking to. Share. God bless you for watching.